So this is the class for today, a Christmas project for you. And this was requested by one of my subscribers because I like to listen to my subscribers. Please put in the comments every request that you have. And this was published in one of the magazines for the International Society of Decorative Painters. This is the edition, the Winter 2017 edition, on page 23. And in there you'll find all the instructions and step-by-step photos. However, you can also find the PDF tutorial in my Patreon page that includes the PDF and also the line drawing. So let's get started. I'm going to start a new piece called A Candy Cane Christmas. I'm going to start with base coating the surface. This is a very beautiful surface purchased from Creative Art Lifestyle. And I'm going to base the lower section of the surface, the panel, with half of medium gray value 6 and all-purpose sealer. I'm going to mix these in a separate piece of paper, palette paper. And I'm going to mix that with a palette knife. And then I'm going to use a roller. And I'm going to slightly wet the roller and then apply the paint like this. So I am using the medium on the first coat. I don't think I'm going to do a second coat because I am going to paint the background with different colors. But for now, we're going to put this. And I'm going to position the frame or the overlay. I'm going to position the overlay so I know where it stands, so I know where to put the colors in the background, because I want to put specific colors in the areas around the design. So this is going to be my first coat. So here we are again, and I am using a 400 grit sandpaper, and it is wet, and I'm just gonna lightly sand this to remove the texture created by the grain of the wood. That's why we put some sealer, because we want the grain to come up now so that we can sand it and we have a better surface to work. It's completely sealed. So before you put your next coat, you're gonna sand your piece. Now the next step is gonna be to put the overlay on top of this. I already marked, because the design is different in all of the sides. I already marked that I want this one to be at the top right, so I put TR in there so I remember. And I want to do my snowflakes are going to be lighter than the background, so I'm going to make the background behind the snowflakes darker. But I'm gonna make a very interesting background for the background of my design, and for that I am going to mark this first, so I know exactly where my design is. I am going to carefully position my design, and I'm gonna make some lines so that I know where is my design. These are the same lines that I placed on the pattern, although you may have a completely different surface. These are the lines that I placed. So now I know that this is where my design is gonna be. Just mark in here. Okay, so I know the design is contained within these white lines, and this is going to be lighter than the outside of this. I'm painting this piece for the first time, so I don't know what color I'm going to give to the overlay. I want to have the underneath darker so I can make it lighter. Anyway, before you start your background, you want to put the overlay and decide exactly where your pattern is going to be. Because what you're going to do is you're going to make a line. This is not moving. Come on. Okay, so you're going to match the pattern to whatever design you have in your, so you know exactly where to put it. Around there, more or less around there. It's not straight. What I want to do is I want to put a line for the table, and I'm going to put it around here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to transfer a line with a ruler, and I will be right back. So I decided to put a line 5 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 above the 5 inches above the lower line of the surface. So I'm gonna take Charcoal pencil and mark it. That didn't mark. Make sure you have 5 inches. And then you can make sure it's straight. Now you know that this lower section, since it's the table, I'm gonna find a brush, so this is gonna be going in this direction like that because it's the table, and this is gonna be on axis. So that's what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna find a brush. Okay, when I put the pattern, I thought 5 inches was too high, so I decided to have the line 4.5 inches above, 4.5 inches so 4.5 inches. So you measure 4.5 inches, that's where you're going to put your line. Table line. The color that we use for the background is a very bluish gray. It has a lot of blue. And I want to teach you a little bit about color theory. I want to be able to offer you something very valuable, and that is teaching you how to mix colors. It's very important to make a very picture outstanding, a painting outstanding. I'm going to tell you a secret of how to make your own black. This is black from the tube. This is carbon black. I don't want to use black from the tube. Black from the tube sometimes has a lot of, this looks very black, but sometimes it has a lot of blue. I like to mix my own black by using ultramarine blue plus burnt umber, and I forgot to pull burnt umber. Let me bring it. So mixing about the same amount of burnt umber and ultramarine blue will make a black. And that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna mix that's burnt umber. I'm gonna have some left in the side. Ultramarine blue. And I'm gonna have some opaque white. The colors I'm gonna use for the background. Opaque white, ultramarine blue, burnt umber. Burnt umber plus ultramarine blue is gonna make a black. And I probably put too much ultramarine blue, and I'm gonna know in a minute. So I'm gonna show you. This is what you do to mix colors. See, it's going too much brown. I wanna have this also for my background. So I'm gonna put a tiny bit of this in here so that I have a darker brown, and I'm gonna put a tiny bit more of the ultramarine blue and make a good black. Sorry. I'm gonna mix this in here. See if I can come with a darker. So I have noticed that also with the oils, that sometimes you have to add a tiny bit more of the ultramarine blue to have a very good black. Now, if you want to test your black, and everything that I'm telling you applies to any medium. Okay, this that I'm telling you applies to any medium. So if you can test your black by taking it to the side and adding a tiny bit of the white, and it will tell you if the black is a warm black or a cool black. It is more into the warm side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make two different blacks, one that is warmer than the other, and mistakenly it has some of the white in there. It's okay. So I'm going to make that, and now I want to make one more into the cool side, so I'm going to take some ultramarine blue and make one that is more into the cool side. Paintings are going to be softer if you mix your own colors. Okay, let's test this other one. And it's now is a cooler black. So let's put the other cooler black in here. So now I have a cooler black, a warmer black, a dark brown, burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and white. And I'm going to use all these to paint. I don't want to waste any paint, so I'm just removing the one on the palette, and so that I can move it to the side. Okay? And this is where I'm going to mix my colors. I'm going to find a brush, and I will be right back. So I have some oval filbert mops in here, no Cornell, and a soft brush or a mop, and I want to also have some medium because sometimes I like to extend the drying time of the painting, so I'm gonna use an extender and blending medium. So I'm gonna move all this to the side, and we're gonna paint this background. I want you to see what I'm doing, so probably I'm gonna put it like this. I'm gonna start with a number 3/4 inch, and I wanna wipe the water from the brush, and I want to start dark. I'm gonna use the brown, black with a tiny, I'm gonna mix these two, and I wanna have it darker in here. And as I go, I'm gonna start adding white to lighten it. If you want, and maybe it's easier if you have all the values pre-mixed. I'm gonna make a very light, warm color, maybe a tiny bit of more burnt umber. And I wanna make this and start building the lighting here. This is where the light, and then I start adding more. I'm adding burnt umber because I want this area to be lighter. You can mop with a mop or a soft brush. Then adding darker, tiny bit darker. That was probably too dark too fast. So go back to the white. Now, let's make this part in here. And I don't want to be all brown, so let's start adding the cooler black. Notice that is like a circle. My brush is thirsty, so I'm gonna put a tiny bit of extender and blending instead of water. And let's go again to that dark color in there. This is too light, so let's blend it with here. Okay, I need more. The dark brown. Okay, so let's continue with the dark in here. And mix this in here. In here, it's going to be like that, but in here, in the table, it's going to be going in the other direction. A bit more tender and blending. So I'm doing all my blending in, have you noticed that I'm doing all my blending in my palette? Tiny bit darker. Before this dry, I want to be able to blend. So I'm blending it a tiny bit there, and it's a tiny bit lighter. That's too dark. Lighter than that. Tiny bit of the brown. And a tiny bit of the white. Keep this area in here lighter. And I go darker. You touch it, you have to fix it, and it's starting to dry, and when it's starting to dry you should not be touching it, because then you're gonna make a mess. Let's see it like this. Okay, so I'm not gonna touch it. You can always go back by putting some extender and blending. I'm going to leave that section, and I'm going to work now on the lower section, which is going to be this way. It's going to be a table, and I'm going to start by, and I'm going to avoid using any browns now. I want to have darker in here. That's probably too dark. I'm gonna put some browns, but only in this area. See if I can. Okay, so I want to have some dark in here. And want to put some highlights in here of the brown with the white. Making a mess in here, putting my hands in the paint, but I want to show you the paint, so I have to do it this way. Okay, so I want to have some looking like the table is a tiny bit browner, so I am adding the brown. Change my idea, my thinking all the time. Let me pause that. So the white plus the burnt umber, and I'm making lighter sections in here. And the dark brown, this dark brown with a tiny bit of white. Let's put the black, darkest black, color black. And you know what? Do not worry about that. I want to have a soft brush, and before this dry, and put it in there. Let's take some of this light brown. That wasn't my brush. I didn't put anything else. Okay, so I want to have it closer to here, lighter, so I'm adding more white to that. And let's put dark brown on the edge in here. That was too much. That was burnt umber. Let's put dark brown. Dark brown. That touches of light. We can play more with this later. Gonna be reflections in the table that we have to add. Anyway, let's start building the darkest color around the design. Because we want the overlay to look very pretty. So we want to put the darkest colors in this area. So I make it in the two very darkest coloring in the background, and sometimes you can pick the other brown that you just made and some of the light here to blend this in here, but we want to make this very dark. Remember, all this is going to be underneath that overlay. Careful you don't get to this area, because you're going to cross over the area that you just painted. Maybe a tiny bit of a light in there. Not that much lighter than that. And that was probably too dark, too light. And we're gonna fix it when we put the dark in there. Let's put dark. Very dark. Okay, so I'm gonna turn my piece so that I can work on the other section. But before I do that, I'm gonna make sure that I don't have any raised edges by going over with the mop. Burnt umber plus white and more white. I don't like that. I don't know what is making it badly now when it was working so good. And I think it is drying and I'm messing it up because it's getting dry. Leave it like this because we are going to glaze, so we can fix anything with the glazing. So I'm going to turn this around and finish the other side. But my brush is so dry that I'm going to clean it. I'm going to remove all the water. Hope you like what I'm doing. Then go to the two darkest color and work this. When you got to that area, you have to add a tiny bit of white to blend that. And probably need to have some medium on your, some blending and glazing medium to be able to work this. So when I'm gonna add some blending and glazing medium with a clean brush. Okay. So the dark plus the white. Connection there. Okay, Let's continue with the other one. The other side. Again, I'm still on the very, very dark color. And when I get to that section, I add the white to blend. But need to have some blending and glazing in here and free of hairs. Blending and glazing in here so that you can mix those sections. Running out of color. See if I have enough to finish this piece with this dark color that I mixed. Adding a tiny bit of the white in order to blend that in there. And then with the mop. Tiny bit of white in there. Continue going down, almost out of color for this part. I'm gonna blend it, adding a tiny bit more of the ultramarine blue to the dark color that I have in here, because that's how we mixed it. Okay, adding white to this dark color so that I can blend in here with excess. And the mop. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it like this to dry, and we're gonna come back and work. We have to trace the pattern and work on our glass ornaments and candy cane and the glass. So this is all dried up, and now I'm going to put my pattern back with white graphite. So you position your pattern when you want it, and then you take a piece of white graphite paper with the white section underneath, and you position that underneath your vellum, and with a stylus you mark all the lines, and then this is what you're gonna get. So that my pattern is all traced up, and I'm gonna put this on a table easel, and we're gonna start painting this. Okay, so this is what we have so far, and what you're gonna do with the overlay, you're going to base coat with the same color that you base coated your background, because we're gonna make this to be the snow, and we want it to be cooler. We want this to be warmer and this to be cooler. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna base coat, and we can start doing that if you want to. Since we're doing today the background, we can take care of so that it starts drying. we're gonna take care of this, and we're gonna give it with the roller, sponge roller. I forgot to add to your instructions, so I'm gonna add that. So we're gonna roll this color with this, but we're gonna put a tiny bit of that multi-purpose sealer with the paint. So we'll do that and we'll be right back. So this is what we have so far, and what I'm gonna do now, I want to stipple some texture on that overlay, and I'm gonna use for that Snow Text, and I'm going to put my lower section aside, and I'm gonna use a very old scruffy brush, and I'm gonna stipple. I'm gonna find that brush. I'm gonna check if this one that is very, very damaged is gonna work for this. What I'm gonna do is take some of this, work it on my brush, and then work it on my surface. And you know what? Probably going to put some on a place in a palette so that the rest doesn't dry. I want to leave some areas that shows the background, and this is all I'm gonna do all the way around. So I'm gonna leave this for you to do this, and then we can start with the painting. I decided to skip some. I don't want to put this on everywhere, because it's gonna be too white and it's gonna call too much attention to the frame. So I'm just going to put it in some of them. And I noticed that it has some sparkle. So that kept me thinking that maybe, I'm going to also use some sparkle for the frame. I'm gonna finish doing this, and I will be right back, and you can look at the picture to figure out where I put it. Okay, so this is the final result, and I'm going to leave this to dry for 4 hours. So I'm gonna start with the glass ornaments, and I'm gonna start with the red, and let's see, we're gonna start with the light area. Let me find a small brush. I'm gonna start with this number 4 Black Gold by Dynasty, and this light color is called Naphthol Red. Naphthol Red. And I'm gonna put this Naphthol Red in here, tiny bit in here, and in here. Naphthol Red. Then I'm gonna take permanent alizarin crimson, and I'm gonna put that in the remainder. Ooh, that color is too transparent. Let's bring a tiny bit of our mixed black color. And we're gonna have to put this in 2 stages because these colors are very, very transparent. And this is the first coat of color. Gonna blend with a tiny bit of the Naphthol Red and make it a tiny bit lighter in there. See, the colors are too transparent. And let's finish it with this dark color that we mixed, and then we can shade and highlight again. This is only a base coat. Mixing and avoiding to leave any ridges of paint. Gonna show you again. I had that black brownish color that I mixed, and that's the color that I used to mix with permanent alizarin crimson. I mixed a tiny bit of that color, and that was the color that I put. And I'm gonna leave that to dry a tiny bit, and then we can glaze. So I'm gonna clean my brush, and I'm gonna bring blue colors. I'm gonna continue with this one, then with the green one. So for the blue, where I put the blue, I'm gonna use the same ultramarine blue that I used on the background. And again, if I need to darken, I'm gonna use that mother color that it's not, it was artist that used to call the mother color, and she's dead now. She used to do gorgeous seascapes, and she mixed this color and she called it the mother color, but in reality is a warm black. Okay, so this is ultramarine blue. You see how transparent that color is too. I'm gonna make sure that I don't have any water, and I'm going to only, I need to have white too in here because I'm trapped. And before I put the ultramarine blue, I'm gonna put that white in there. It's in here. This is white. We'll have some ultramarine blue too, but okay. So just to start, since I have the white, I'm gonna mix the white with the light red color, which is the Naphthol Red, and I wanna put that in here. Mix it with the Naphthol Red. Probably needs to have another coat of Naphthol Red on top, but let's let it like that, and then we can go back. This is the Naphthol Red, second coat of the Naphthol Red in there, and in here, and a tiny bit in here. And later on we can glaze this, and we are going to glaze it, but right now let's just put it like that. So let's go to the blue, and let's see, we're gonna mix that dark blue with the blue color and that warm black that we have. And that's the color that we're gonna put in here. That's why you have that line in there. And it's gonna go in here. Tiny bit in here. I'm gonna wipe my brush, and I'm gonna go to ultramarine blue. And again, this is a base coat because these colors are transparent. We have to get several coats, but for now we're starting to put the values where they're supposed to go. I'm gonna mix the white plus the ultramarine blue, make a lighter version of the blue. Again, the dark color at the top. Ultramarine blue plus the warm black, making it a darker blue. And I'm not gonna even worry if it is its model. Let's see, I'm going to put ultramarine blue in here and start putting ultramarine blue. In the remainder, I'm gonna put ultramarine blue. Hard to keep it that ultramarine light blue color. And the photo that I have is dark, and I may bring an iPad and try to make it this more exactly like the photograph. Because it's a shame, it is a beautiful photograph. Just gonna turn it so that I can go to that line. And I'm not even worried if I go over any of the highlights that I have, because they can be applied back. Want to have a basic base coating here. Oopsie daisy, that's probably too much. As long as it has shapes. Now I am trying to flatten some lines that I left in there, and I'm gonna let this dry. Clean the brush and put that white back. Okay, so let's go to the green. I'm gonna bring another color for the green. Medium green. There's a section I'm gonna tell you, and this is a reflection of the glass, but there's a section of blue in here. This section from here to here is ultramarine blue. That's a reflection on the glass. Then, just so that we put it now, we have a big strong section of white in there, which we're gonna later on put other colors in there, but I just wanna put it now so I don't lose that line. And I have another one in here, and I have another big one in here. And there, there, and there, and there. Okay, so for now, we can put that in there. Those are very, very strong shines. Let's do the green. And the green is called medium green. And we're going to put the green in here. Let's bring it with the mother color or with the background color, warm black. A tiny bit more of the warm black. I want that to still read green. Let's put green. That very dark brown. Okay, let's take the medium green. a tiny bit of white. Medium green. The medium green plus the warm black. Okay, I'm gonna clean my brush. And I'm gonna put the red, and I'm gonna take a photograph for you. This is the Naphthol Red, and I'm gonna put it in here. That's gonna be the red. And one more. I'm gonna put another section of the medium green, and it starts in here. Medium green plus white. Let's make sure let's take that dark brown color, and we're gonna put it in here. Okay, let's sure we put some green on top of that, of the medium green, so that we blend it in there. Okay, so we are going to, what we're going to do now, the mixture of the green plus the dark green. Let me put it one more in here. Okay. I'm going to take a picture for you. It's just a minute. Put another white in here and in here. Again, these are going to be later worked on better when we work on the glass. And this is the blue, ultramarine blue. Let's take ultramarine blue plus white. and put some strong highlights that we have in there. Oops, but they need to read blue. Okay, there, and there. Let's put ultramarine blue and make them smaller. And one more black, warm black, oops, and we're gonna take a photograph of this first stage. Have to be very dark in here, and there's a tiny bit of black in here. Missing some green in there. The medium green. Medium green. Tiny bit of medium, the green here. The dark green, the dark green, up to where? Up to here. Okay, so I'm gonna paint the metal attachments of the bulbs, and then I'm gonna paint the candy cane, and then we move to the glass. So I need a smaller brush, and I'm gonna use the same brown mixture that we have, which is this color. And add a tiny bit of the ultramarine blue to make it cooler. And now, just gonna put first in here the dark in there. Then I'm gonna go to the white and mix the white to make it lighter. I'm just gonna ignore right now all the holes and things, because it's gonna be easier if you ignore them. And I probably gonna, you know what, I'm gonna find black, carbon black. It's gonna help us keep those colors darker. So this is carbon black. Let's see, now we have carbon black, and we can put black in here, and in here, and in here, and in here, in there, and in here. So this is carbon black. the blue-gray mixture that we mixed in there. Tiny bit of black. So now we need to take a liner with blue plus ultramarine blue plus white. Gonna put tiny highlights in there. Right, it was too much. Let's take the green and the ultramarine blue and make a turquoise with the white. Right, I take turquoise color. Darken with the gray. Then we can highlight with white. That's too light for the composition, so we're gonna blend it with that turquoise color that we mixed. The green plus the ultramarine blue plus white, that's the turquoise color that we mix. I have this turquoise color, I'm gonna put it in here. And then like, I'm gonna take the black with the brown, make it darker. There. The gray. Still don't like that. Gonna take a tiny bit of a small brush, and I'm going to take the gray plus white and I'm going to highlight this edge like that, and tiny bit in here, there. Then I'm going to take that black and float that shading on this side like this. Side darker. Also want this in here darker. I think I have this, have to go up to there like that. So I'm going to fix that. Okay, there, that's better. And we need to have highlighting here and a tiny bit in there. And in here. This is very dark in here. Very, very dark in there. Okay, gray color. Let's see if we go closer there. I want to have a tiny bit of color in here. The medium gray color. There. And this one in here, you should not see it too much. Up to here. But then we need to have the black on the edge. And for now, I'm gonna take the liner with that aqua color that we mixed, and takes a tiny bit of white and float in here. We can glaze it with the gray. Everything was wet and I accidentally mixed everything. I think it's time for us to stop because I'm making a mess because I'm tired and that's not good. We're gonna fix this and we're gonna stop for the day. The black. And then when we're not tired, we can glaze this and make it better. I'm gonna base coat the candy cane, and we're gonna start with the lower section, which we're gonna mix one white plus yellow oxide. And so one white plus yellow oxide, and I'm gonna use that for the lower section as a lighter section in there, so let's put one white in there, and then yellow oxide this section from here to there. Because we want to create different values of white. So yellow oxide and one white. And you know that what? You know that you're gonna have to put this twice. Base coat this twice. So this is the first base coat. So yellow oxide and warm white. And I'm gonna base coat those two, then I'm gonna put the remainder in warm white. And we'll be right back. The red section is gonna be base coated with the Naphthol Red so that we don't introduce new colors. So Naphthol Red is gonna be the red section. And you know that we're gonna highlight and shade all these, so base coat those sections and I'm gonna let you do it at your own time. Oopsie daisy. Make a hole in there. So base coat this and we'll be right back. There's also some of the warm white in here and the red plus the warm white in there. A tiny bit of the yellow oxide also to this section. Gonna continue base coating this and I will be right back. Background color was to separate it from the color of the piece, so I am taking that brown black color that we mixed and I am placing a wash of this color in the frame. And later on I may put some metallic colors, but right now I just want to tint this so that it is more related to the piece. So this is what I'm doing, tinting this background, this frame, so that it has colors that are more related to the piece that I'm doing. We had put a very cool gray and now we're warming up that gray. And when this is dry, I'm gonna take metallic lustre colors and I am going to play with metallic lustres in here. Okay, so now that it has dried, we're going to glaze with metallic lustre, ice espresso, and black shimmer. And we are going to use a brush, wet in water. And this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna brush in the metallic lustre like that, and you're gonna use one color first and then you're gonna use the other color. That's all you're gonna do. Then I will reassess what we have and decide if this is all we're gonna do. But for now, just put some of these touches of color. And we'll be right back. I'm gonna also put some green, but this green is very strong, so I advise you to be very careful with the amount that you have in. You see how strong it is? So if you put that much, you can wet it and remove some of it if that's extremely strong. So what we're gonna do is we're just going to wet it, remove some from it. We don't want this to scream green. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a touch of green here and there. And I want to fix that one. So I'm gonna go back to the ice espresso and put it on top of that one. Tiny bit of green, and if you put too much, take the ice espresso and go back to and calm it down. Like for example in here, I can put some ice espresso in there and calm that down a tiny bit. Okay, but I want to see some green. I think I'm gonna leave it like that for now. I don't know if I filmed everything, but I make washes of them with blending and glazing of the ultramarine blue in here. And red plus blue in the plus black in there. I'm going to take another photograph in here. I hope I didn't miss all that I did in here. Anyway, I'm going to take another photo, and before I do that, I'm going to explain just in case I missed it. This was ultramarine blue plus white, this was gray plus black, and gray plus white, and the same as here, it was painted with gray plus lighter in here, but a tiny bit of blue, but it was gray plus white. And this was with red, which is the Naphthol Red plus black plus a tiny bit of blue, and diluted in here. So I'm gonna take another photograph, and then we're gonna go to the second stage of these and the candy cane. We're gonna shade and highlight the candy cane, and then we're gonna take another photo. Before we start with the glazing, we have to establish some darks and lights in the glass container, because we are going to probably lose these lines, graphite lines, when we put glaze. So let's start with gray color, since we have black in here right now, and establish some darks. I already put some of the darks in there. I'm going to take black with a tiny bit of the opaque white. And I am going to put a tiny bit of dark in this section in here. And that is probably too light. So I'm gonna go straight to black with my dirty brush. And I want to put also some dark in here. And I already put some in here. Let's put some dark gray in here. In here. If you don't see it, you add more black right underneath there. It's missing some light, so let's bring some white, opaque white. This is just the beginning of the glass. I want to have shines in here, and in here. And here. And then in here finds a liner. And I'm going to add some of the yellow oxide. And then more of the opaque white. Supposed to be that way, was supposed to be unbroken line, so let's see if we can break it. Okay, so ultramarine blue on this one with a tiny bit of white on top. Ultramarine blue in here. Was got too much. Clean brush and clean it right away before it dries. Oopsie daisy. See, these paints, they stay wet longer. Gonna take that dirty brush with the white, and I have a tiny bit of green in there, and put a tiny bit of that greenish color. He has the blue and a tiny bit of yellow and the white. So yellow, blue, and white. That same color. I have some of that same color in here. In there. That same color in here. So it's white, the yellow, oxide, and a tiny bit of the color of the green color left in the, or the blue color left. I don't want to have those graphite lines in there. So probably if you can erase partly the graphite lines, and then you can take that greenish color. I will work on that more later. I'm gonna erase that graphite line from there too. Having the graphite lines is good to have them as a guide, but you don't want them to see behind your Okay, so I'm going to take a tiny bit of green, medium green, and this time I'm going to take a tiny bit of white plus that yellow oxide. I'm going to turn this upside down because it's going to be easier for me to do that. And I want to have this in here. Probably more of the green. And tiny bit of the green there too. And in here. In here. And then in here. We want to put some reflections on the wall and green reflections and on the table, and let's add a tiny bit of white on top, maybe a tiny bit of yellow oxide too. take some of that white and also have some white shines on this table. Okay, so let's dry these, and probably we can put a protecting set for the glass. We don't want to do that yet because it has lines, graphite lines, so we don't want to protect it. But let's dry it very well with with a hair dryer, and then we can continue with there's still a lot to do in here. Okay, so before I finish with continue with the candy cane, I have to fill some section of the candy cane in here. So the red was the Naphthol Red light, and white was the warm white plus a tiny bit of the yellow oxide. So make sure that you have completed this candy cane in here before you start shading and highlighting. That was the red, and the warm white plus yellow oxide. Tiny bit distorted because it is inside the glass. Okay, so I'm going to complete that and we'll be right back. Now we're going to shade the candy cane cut. We are going to shade the candy cane by floating the black plus white shade. And this will be done using a technique called floating. If you don't know how to float, please refer to one of the videos on floating that I have in YouTube. So I'm going to take a brush. I'm going to try to use a number 10. And I'm going to side load black and white and mix those two colors together to make a float. And I'm going to make sure that I use a large brush to wet the area first with blending and glazing medium. Blending and glazing medium. I'm going to put this in here, and then with the color on this side, and that's probably too dark, too fast. Let's see. We can put a tiny bit of glazing medium in here, and it is gonna be only 2 here. You can take a mop and you can mop, and it will remove the excess. If you break the movement, you leave a line. It's better not to break the movement, and do it in one continuous movement, and then with the blending and glazing that you have in there, you can mop it. Gonna move it a tiny bit more in that edge. So I'm gonna do the same on the lower section. You may need to do this twice. Wait until the first one is dry before you do another one. Okay, so we shaded that, and now we have to shade in here. Black plus white, it makes that gray color. Same amount of black and white. And we are going to shade in this side in here. And we are going to mop it. Okay, so you got it where you don't want it, you clean it. Now we need to highlight, but before we do that, I need to do a shading in here across. It's coming from here to here, like that. Maybe this. That. One last shading in here, in there, and we're gonna stop to take another photo. Maybe follow this shading all the way down. We are on the second day, and I am going to glaze with glazing and blending and glazing, extender and blending. I am going to wet the candy cane, and I am going to give it a second shading. This time it's gonna be darker, and I'm mixing black plus white. Black plus white, and I am going to shade this side. Even though if you go on top of the red, that's okay, because this is a shadow. And in the picture it looks gray on top of the red. It starts to fade on the top like that. And I'm going to take this side too, up to there, tiny bit in here. Tiny bit in there. And I'm gonna put a tiny bit in here. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna put a darker one. In the meantime, I want to move this up, and I want to create a tiny bit of, and this time I'm gonna have to put some of the Burnt Umber Plus Ultramarine Blue to make it warmer. So I'm gonna mix again the Burnt Umber plus Ultramarine Blue, and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm gonna wet a tiny bit with the extender and blending in here, being careful that I don't lose the lines that I have in there, the graphite lines. I'm going to float that dark color that I created underneath in here. Let me float that. Let me blend that. I need to soften that. Because the real bottom of the base is in here, which is darker, and that's only a reflection. It's a reflection underneath in here. It's a reflection in here. Put a tiny bit of white to make this less dark. Okay, and then that's too much white. Too much white. There. In here. Follow that graphite line, but make sure that you will not see the graphite line anymore. That's the brown that we created with the French Ultramarine Blue plus French Ultramarine Blue plus Burnt Umber. Creates black. Okay, I'm going to take the black plus a tiny bit of this mixture that we brown black that we created. And I am going to make it darker. Try to put this in here, making a float of black. Let's see, and this is going to go in here. It has to be even darker than that. Oops. Careful with your be careful with the candy cane, which is still wet. Okay, so the brown black that we created, see if we can. Trying to eliminate that white graphite line in there. I have to try to erase it later. I'm gonna take that same brown that I created and float in here and in here. Same brown that I created. Same amount of burnt umber and ultramarine blue will do. Using my other side of the brush to blend this a tiny bit in here. So some in here. I'm gonna show you the color in case you wanna see it. This is the brown mixture that I did. And let's see. At the top in here, I was in there, it was too dark in there. But I had the color. Let's use this color in here. In here. Take this with a tiny bit of white, the brown with a tiny bit of white. More brown. Even a tiny bit more of the brown. I am still with that dark brown, and I'm gonna put it in here. And in here. And a tiny bit in here. That's too wide. This is too wide. So I'm going to clean it with a mop. I'm gonna put a tiny bit in here. And in here. And I'm going to mop it. And in here. And mop it. Tiny bit in here. Put it this way so that I can do it better. And in here. see. One more. Let's see, I want to put more in here. Find a clean brush. Oopsie daisy. In here and in here. Okay, and I'm gonna dry this and do another glaze. I'm going to shade the candy cane one more time. I'm gonna make sure that I put a very little amount of the blending and glazing, because I don't want this too wet and then it starts spreading. Okay, so I'm going to use the black plus white. Tiny bit amount of white, more of the black. I'm gonna start over. My paints are starting to dry. It's so hot here in Florida and we are in December. Global warming. Okay, so I'm going to float one more time. This time it's going to be very dark. I don't want it to have a line. Already dry. It dry already. Oh my gosh. Trying too fast. Drying too fast for me. I may have to. I'm gonna leave that line in there. Let's use the mop. Okay, this. Black plus white. Put too much black this time. Okay, and this side. Take this paint and make sure I have it in the right places in here. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's take that black plus a tiny bit of white. Let's mop it in there. Let's see. Black plus a tiny bit of white. That was too dark. Can always take a tiny bit of blending and glazing and erase it. I don't want it to be a line. Okay, I'm gonna erase that section because I don't like it, and if you don't like something, you clean it. And I want to put more of the blue and red in there. Red, which is the Naphthol Red, Ultramarine Blue, and Black. Naphthol Red, Ultramarine Blue, and Black. Put a tiny bit of glazing. Then I'm gonna clean, and I'm gonna take a tiny bit of ultramarine blue alone. Okay, white plus ultramarine blue. White plus ultramarine blue. And let's blend that with a mop. Touch of white. Touch of white in here, and blend that with a mop. I blended with ultramarine blue, and now I'm gonna add again the white. White. White plus ultramarine blue. We are going to do more on the glass balls, but right now I'm gonna dry, and I am going to dry, and I want to fix this in here. White plus black. Let's fix that in there. Okay. Take a tiny bit of black plus white. Tiny bit more of the black. Maybe tiny bit of the brown if we have left any. Ultramarine blue plus black. These are just details if you need to fix anything, but I don't want to waste the camera doing details, so we're gonna continue. And we'll be right back. Before I dry again, I want to paint some touches of green that I left. Let's see. This has to be probably with a tiny bit of the yellow. Let's see what yellow we have in here. Yellow oxide. Let's mix with yellow oxide. I don't want to at this point add any other color. So yellow oxide with a tiny bit of green. More yellow oxide than green. And let's use our blending and glazing and add a tiny bit of blending and glazing in here. And we are going to add this color in here. Yellow in there, and green on the other side, and green on this side, there's green in there. Tiny bit of green in here, and in here there's some green. Let's put some more yellow in there. And yellow. Can put some yellow in here. And some yellow in here. Let's put some yellow in here. And we probably should have put blending and glazing in there before we added that yellow. And so didn't like what I did. I don't have instructions in here, so you have to bear with me. I'm going to highlight now the candy cane, and for that I am going to start with some blending and glazing medium. And you remember that we did not start with white on the candy cane because I wanted to use the white for the highlight. So this is the opaque white. I'm gonna start first. I'm gonna do one with warm white and then one with opaque white. So I'm going to, oopsie daisy, put some, mistakenly I put some green on my brush. Okay, so this is the warm white. And I'm gonna blend that. Going to be able to blend nicely if you have the blending and glazing medium. Now let's go with the white. Let's reinforce and this is a highlight of the glass, and since we are putting the white, let's put a tiny bit of blending and glazing medium there and add that highlight of the glass. Whoopsie daisy. I have to have more than one brush clean so that you can play with your Let's take the warm white, blending and glazing. Oops. That was not my intention. Blending and glazing. Warm white, and this is going to be a float. Let's see. If I put blending and glazing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this strong highlight that I put in here. And then I'm going to continue with the highlights on the glass. Before we continue with the glass, I want to bring the candy cane alive a tiny bit because with all the shadings, it doesn't look like candy anymore. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of the red, which is the Naphthol Red, and I'm going to highlight the red in some areas close to the light, of course. paint a strong shine in this area, and make sure this is very light in here and in here. Strong shine in there. And there. Gonna highlight the glass so that I can go later if I need any more detail. So we're gonna put blending and glazing on the glass. I think I need a cleaner palette. So I'm gonna clean my palette, we'll be right back. So let's put blending and glazing on the glass, and we're gonna highlight the glass. Make sure everything is dry. I said it. Make sure everything is dry. Try to eliminate that graphite line that I have in there. So I want to go away. Sometimes it's easier with an eraser, but it seems that it stayed there, so I will have to try to erase it somewhere else. Okay, so I put blending and glazing, and I'm gonna let this blending and glazing, let's put it everywhere. I'm gonna let this blending and glazing stand a tiny bit. Okay, let's this dry a tiny bit. Okay, so I need to have for the round for the highlights. I like to use dome rounds. These are dome rounds, so that's what I like to use for highlights for the glass. And I'm gonna put first, I'm gonna have some yellow, which is the yellow oxide. I'm gonna have some warm white and some white and some black. I'm opening my paints and putting them on my palette. Make sure your hands are clean, or you transfer it to some places on your background like I did. You need a paper towel and some white. So we're using opaque white, warm white, yellow oxide, and black. Let's see. First, I'm gonna take a flat brush, not too big. This is size 2. Let's see. I'm not gonna use size 2. I'm gonna use size 4. Let me find it. Since it's the one that is not too good anymore, so I'm gonna use the size 4. And I'm going to start with the yellow oxide plus warm white, and I'm gonna put in here 2 and in here And I'm gonna take this dumb round it's a smaller in here. Okay, less amount of paint, and I want to put some in here. And tiny bit in here. I'm gonna blend with blue. And have some blue also in here. Where you have that graphite line, that's where you're gonna put some blue. And blend it in there. And let's see. Go again back to the, I want to have that much blue. I'm gonna put white plus blue to make a lighter blue and make it lighter, this in here. Okay. I'm gonna take some of the white plus yellow and put it in here. Okay, so yellow oxide plus 1 white. And we're gonna put some in here. Let's wipe that a tiny bit. Same color in here. And in here. And it's wiped. Need the red. Need the red because I'm going to blend this in here. Don't see red any place else. Oh. Yellow oxide plus white. It was not meant to be this wide. So you can take Some of these have to be strengthened, but first we're putting them like this, and then we're gonna dry and we're gonna strengthen this. Yellow oxide plus white. More yellow oxide. Yellow oxide plus white. Find my place. See this. Okay, I think I'm going to now dry it and then I can put another color. Let's see, let's put a tiny bit of on here. Okay, let's try it. Let's see. Tiny bit of blue in here. Fix that in there. Blue plus black. I don't think I have any glazing in there. Okay, let's dry it. Before I dry, I'm gonna take advantage that I have glazing on the balls. Let me put a tiny bit more. And let's put some more detail in that. Gonna take warm white plus ultramarine blue. So we want to put that in here. Lighter darker in there. Okay, let's put some more ultramarine blue in here and in here, with a tiny bit of white. Take a liner and the ultramarine blue plus white, maybe a tiny bit more of the white. Blend with the ultramarine plus white. Is this not as bright as the other one? Let's take ultramarine blue. There's a lot of tiny okay, so let's leave that one alone and put a tiny bit more on this one. So the red, which is Naphthol Red plus white, and we're gonna put that in here and in here. And I'm gonna take the red plus black and I'm gonna darken some areas like in here. Because this one is behind, doesn't get as much light as the other one, and even more black to make it even deeper, and those deep areas. Those deep areas is what gonna make your balls shine. And I think we have enough for the green. Maybe blend these better with the green. Okay, this is black plus green. And let's make a tiny bit darker this section in here with the black plus the green. Okay, let's take a tiny bit of the warm white plus yellow oxide because we're missing a section in here. Okay, so I'm gonna break for lunch and we'll be right back. Let's take a tiny bit of black. This has to be, this one is not as big as that. And black plus white. Let's see. Oops. More black. Meant to put it that. Let's put back the yellow oxide plus white, and we'll fix that later because it has to have more of the light. Okay, so let's do our secondary glazing of highlights. Let's take the glaze blending and glazing. Gonna take a tiny bit of red and I am going to quiet this down a tiny bit. Red and black. Put the black back. Red and black. Maybe more of the black in here. blue, blue and white. Let's use opaque white plus blue. And highlighting here. Remember that this one is the one that is more closer to the glass. So let's work on the glass. And this time we're gonna put the opaque white that was probably too strong, too fast. Okay, let's make sure that we have the standing blend and blending, the extender and blending. And let's take the warm white. You want to see some of that yellow ochre in there. Yellow ochre. And warm white. Warm white. warm white, warm white, warm white, okay, warm white, opaque white, have to fix that shadow in there. I'm blending it with the opaque white. And let's put the red, back the red in there. Sometimes you mess up what you have. And just try to fix it, and that's it. I'm gonna fix that and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're putting our very, very strong shine in here and in here. So this here and in here, we're gonna have very, very strong shines. We can also put it in here. Okay, let's dry all these, take another picture, and then we can put more highlights on the glass. Okay, I'm going to put a tiny bit of the glazing in here because I want to make some areas of the red. I'm gonna blend it with the white and make a lighter gray, red. And let's highlight that red. Okay, a tiny bit. Highlight with one white. One white with a tiny bit of the yellow oxide. Okay, let's work on the glass. Tiny bit of the extender. Okay. A tiny bit of warm white. Tiny bit of yellow in here. Okay, let's work on the lower section. Well, I need a liner, warm white. See if we can stand this more. Okay, and we have a very strong highlighting there. And yellow ochre plus warm white. The extender dry so it's not moving. Let's put black plus warm white in between. White. Yellow oxide plus warm white. Okay, I'm gonna do just one more glazing and that's it, because this is gonna be then too hard to do for a project, for a class, and I didn't want it to be this hard. So let's do one more highlight and shading and we're gonna stop. So let's see, we want to put a tiny bit more of the opaque whiting here, tiny bit of opaque white in there, and blend it in here, and we want to spread this a tiny bit in here so it looks like a reflection. And the warm white plus yellow oxide. Because we can be working on glass forever, and I didn't want to be this so hard. So the warm white plus the yellow oxide. One white plus yellow oxide, since that okay. Tiny bit of the opaque white. One white plus yellow oxide on that line that we have in there. Okay, let's take some of the black. I was slightly too strong. Let's take some of the warm white plus yellow oxide and okay, let's see the white, opaque white. Okay. Gosh. Put my dirty hand, and before it dries I want to clean that. opaque white, opaque white, since that my blending and glazing is drying, so I'm gonna dry and reapply. So that's what you have to do if you feel that it is drying. Well, I'm gonna do the final touches. It's like you're never gonna be happy with your piece. I'm like that. I'm always trying to change it and change it and change it. I'm just going to add some highlights in here with the warm white. Touches of highlight in there with the warm white. And maybe here and here, and I am going to glaze in here a tiny bit of highlight in the, and that's the last thing that I'm gonna do in here. I don't want to make this very complicated for you. We can be here working all night. I don't just want to glaze in here some highlight with the yellow oxide and a tiny bit of warm white. And I'm just going to float in here. A highlight. And I'm going to blend that maybe with a mop. With a mop. You may have to redo that if you lost it. Put it again, dry it, sign your piece, and enjoy.